Alright, so now we're heading into what will be the finale of Sonic the Hedgehog, and this is Starlight Zone. Probably one of the more popular zones in this game. This zone has a lot of loop-de-loops and elements that will probably remind people of Green Hill Zone. But it also has our fun little friends that we met in Labyrinth Zone back there, as well as the little bomb thingies that we saw in the 8-bit Sonic game in Sky Base Zone. Yeah, those show up here for the first time, and let's just say I'm not real thrilled about seeing them. Oh, and then of course we have the fireball cannons that are hidden by the stanchion on the left side of the wall, which I thought was not particularly nice, as we try and manipulate these staircases. Despite being one of the faster levels, you can see I'm not rip-roaring around at this point, because again, I don't really know where I'm going. This is the first time that I've played this game all the way through, and this is the first time I've really seen this area. But you can see a lot of the level tricks and terrain setups that'll be here throughout Starlight Zone. You know, these curvature pieces going up to a higher ramp. That'll be a big thing. And so now I'm just working my way around. These fans, which push you in a certain direction, they will also be a continual feature. And yeah, I decided not to go where that guy is. And I'm feeling pretty good right now. I've got 30 rings. We need about 20 more. Now we need about 5 more to get eligible for a special stage, except that the fan won't let us go back and get those 5 rings. And so we beat Act 1, and not too bad. But historically, we've started screwing things up in Act 2. So now you can already start to see that things are being made a little more challenging here. There's our little buddy. We'll just jump over him. Okay, here's the same sort of loop set piece that we saw earlier. Except this fan pulls you back and that fan pushes you forward, and so this took me to sort of the lower route here of this level. Which I was, kind of happy to be in. Not a lot of trouble here. Just running around. Then that part, which is always fun. Now notice I have 53 rings here, so when we got to the first seesaw, and this is another theme that populates Starlight Zone and will later populate other Sonic levels. I think Hilltop Zone in Sonic 2. I'm going off of memory of things I've seen, obviously, since when we get to Sonic 2, that's not going to be totally blind for me, but it's going to be pretty darn close. But here I had 66 rings, and for the second time in this entire game, I managed to get to the finish line with enough rings to go to the special stage. So I was curious to see what would happen, and what happened is I went to this special stage. This is not the same special stage we played earlier. This time I'm a little bit better with adjusting to my jumps, a little bit better about figuring out where the places you don't want to go are and trying to avoid those. But it's still a little bit tricky to manipulate this stuff. And so, I'm just trying to be careful. Now, I haven't noticed this yet, but there's not a time limit. There I nearly got kicked out of the level by hitting the wrong thing. I see I'm supposed to go through one of these narrow gaps. So I managed to adjust myself to go in the narrow gap, and then I see what the point is to break through these crystals in order to get to the Chaos Emerald in the middle. Problem is, when I got to the crystals the first time, and even the second time, that's when things started spinning on me, and I kind of lost control, and getting back was not as easy as I would have liked. Fortunately, there was only one section of the place that would send me out. So I kept working my way back in, so even though this is not the place where I started working from, you know, I was determined to keep going after this one emerald. So here I am, and this time I get right next to it and jump out, which, when that happened, I was like, okay, I'm doomed, you know, I mean, there's no way this is going to work. And but here it is, we were rewarded with the yellow emerald, which, if you know your Sonic lore well enough, is the accursed fourth Chaos Emerald from Shadow the Hedgehog. So naturally we would get that one, the one traditionally associated with my favorite character, Shadow, even though Shadow really gets more use out of the green Chaos Emerald than he does the yellow one. So now we're bouncing around, up, and running into my favorite people there. And this is Act 3, so this is the boss act. I'm just looking for where to go, looking for places that are new, and of course trying to learn how seesaws work. And of course there's our friends who blow up, and you have trying to avoid not only them, which isn't very hard where they're placed there, but also the little shrapnel that they shoot when they die. Not cool to shoot shrapnel when you die. I mean, it's just not cool. Now here there's two routes you can take, and I decide for the sake of ease, I'm going to try to go the high road, because usually the high road is nicer to you in Sonic games. There's better rewards. And that puts me into this loop sequence. And for the third time, you know, we've got 50 rings. Unfortunately, this is a boss zone, and so well, okay, I say 50 rings, and then the little swaying platform thingy, which was not at all obvious that it was there from where we were, came and took away all our rings, and then took our shield. So, get some more rings here on another sequence. Another seesaw. This time the elevator goes down, and I thought that was funny that they sent me, down, and then there's this sequence. Like, how do you get through that? Well, fortunately I had one ring left when I entered the boss fight. Now, with this boss fight, I understood two things. One, I have to hit Robotnik. And two, the bombs hurt me. However, I wasn't certain whether or not the bombs hurt him, although he seemed to flinch when they hit him, which suggested that maybe they did. Of course, I'm busy playing with that one ring that I have. And I never really find out the answer, whether they hurt him or not, until pretty close to the end. And that's because he blows up after I hit him with one. So I thought, oh, that's kind of neat. I guess I could have been trying to do that the whole time instead of the awkward seesaw tactic to jump into a bit. But we left Starlight Zone. Starlight Zone with its really neat musical rendition of the Sonic theme. Starlight Zone with its neat backdrops. And then we're thrown into Scrap Brain Zone. Scrap Brain Zone is as it is described. This is every trap thrown together in any number of ways. There's all kinds of ways to get hit in this level. And you know, whether it's being smushed by these horizontal thingies because you don't realize you need to run into the gap. Or it's the flamethrowers, or it's the well-placed caterpillars. Or it's these little, again, this time they're probably not Van de Graaff generators because they're plugged into the wall, so they're probably just electro balls. Platforms that are visible and then are not visible. You know, that's a thing. You see the fire coming from the floor. You see, then there's these spinny platform things, which I absolutely hate. And if you miss, you end up in, you know, all these electrical things down on the floor. And then you've got to, you know, platforms to get up. You know, there's just, the level is designed to kill you in a way that perhaps the other levels are not. Maybe the level is also designed to test my patience with this particular switch and trying to get back up on the spinny platform thingies. But I finally did. And this is not the last instance of these. So now it was jumping on the platforms that appear, disappear. There's the bridges that are there, and then they're not there. And those bridges get even more annoying later on. So here we're going down into this pipe. I decided to just speed across those bridges, stay on this upper path, and work my way this way, and then we have more spinny things. So, fortunately, I was able to time it, go across then. I was able to time it again. And now we've got upper path, lower path once again. So I went upper path and ran into some more familiar faces. Yes, the pigs. The pigs are back and look less adorable than they did in the 8-bit version. But once we get past those two pigs, we do get out of Scrap Brain Zone level 1, or Act 1. It's like, okay. Now, if you remember in the 8-bit game, Scrap Brain Zone was the friendly, you know, had 3 acts. The boss act was removed and replaced with a additional player act, which I kind of appreciated. No such luck here. Scrap Brain Zone is still 3 acts strong. And I had to figure out what to do with this next challenge, which is the little, I don't know, gyro ball thing where you have to run on it. You know, jumping on it really doesn't do you any good. They don't show up anywhere else in the level from what I remember. And then we get taken into either pneumatic tube or some kind of elevator. And then we get more spinny things. Because I absolutely wanted more spinny things. But, you know, one thing I liked about this game, even though Scrap Brain Zone was kind of crazy, is that when you get through something, you do feel like you've accomplished something. You know, for all of Scrap Brain's nonsense, you know, you're glad to get through there. So now you got to, okay, now we've got saws coming down, and they they change in height. They'll move up and down on those conveyors, which will bring you toward them. So, even more fun stuff to deal with. Besides our usual... See, I can see the saw right there, but this time there are two of them. And then I get trapped under the bridge, and of course there's a electric generator shooting things down there. So yeah, it wasn't looking good for getting another Chaos Emerald. Looks like we're going to have to be stuck with Emerald number 4. And hope that provides enough good luck for us. And you may be wondering, well, you haven't died. That's actually not true. In Scrap Brain Zone, I died a lot. In many different ways. Like, I'm pretty sure that ball and chain got me at least once. And this also caused problems, because this is the only time in the game where I think you were forced to roll. Again, one thing that, an expert Sonic player does that, I didn't do is take advantage of the rolling mechanic whenever you can. And of course the answer to that is I'm not an expert Sonic player. That was kind of cool, mean. The pig threw his bomb at such a time that right after I got through the throwy ball, I ran into the pig. So I was glad to get this invincibility and run through a few of these pigs. This part of the stage kind of reminded me of the Scrap Brain stage from the 8-bit game. Just the sequence of running all the way down this long hallway having to deal with pigs. All for the purpose of reaching some kind of door at the end. Fortunately, this door is going to open for us. Or it would have if I'd gone down there, but I decided not to. I decided to go the other way. Because I wanted to get hit by lots of metal things, and that's actually where the finish line was. And just when you think you're done with Act 2, you've passed the post, the game does this number. And you're like, oh, wait a minute, what's going on? And then you walk, and you see Robotnik, and you're like, oh, okay, we're just going to go straight into a boss battle. There's not going to be a third Scrap Brain stage. No, there is. This is the first time a transition like that gets used. In Sonic 3, they are very common. So here is Scrap Brain Zone Level 3, which uses a lot of Labyrinth Zone assets, enemies, and stuff. Now what I've done here is I got in front of the little platform, and I beat it down. So this is a different route. I didn't take this route at first. I only discovered it after maybe the 4th or 5th death. And I thought, oh, okay, well, let's see where this goes. And so, other than looking at purplish water and going, that doesn't look good. And of course, there's our favorite Labyrinth Zone enemies. And our favorite spinny ball and chain Labyrinth Zone stuff. There's multiple balls and chains, so we couldn't avoid them. And interestingly, it led me to this point right here. I thought this looked weird. And then it shot me into the last zone of the game, which I was caught a little off guard. I didn't expect for it to go that quickly. I was stuck here for a while. I discovered that those little floating purple things weren't much of a threat. But trying to stay, trying to hit Dr. Eggman and stay in the same place to hit him the next time. Because you have to hit him 8 times. It was just hard for me to pull off. You can see I missed him a couple times here. Particular problem was when the two ones in the middle would come together. And see, that time I escaped, but you know, your first instinct is to hit the doctor in that case. But if you go in the middle between those two, you'll get stuck and die, and you have no rings. So yeah, this took me a little while. But the process, once you figure out how the process works, you know, you can fit actually in some of the smaller gaps between the homing lasers or whatever you want to call them. But there's always a big gap available to you, even if you're not particularly well positioned for where Dr. Robotnik ends up. So, yeah. Like I said, I remained patient and finally got the 8 kills, and then just like the 8-bit game, we chase him, we hit him, you know, we've wrecked all of his toys, we've saved the day, all of our little animal friends are happy. We're running through a green hill zone. And then we jump at the screen, because I think Sonic does that in all of the classic Sonic games. But that was not the best ending. Again, to get the best ending in this game, you need to get all 6 Chaos Emeralds. And as you saw, I only managed to get Chaos Emerald number 4. And then you get the credits, and so it goes back and shows parts of certain levels. Game is not sophisticated enough to have been keeping track of your progress and show. So this isn't you playing through this stuff, and the way I knew this is because I never went all the way up on Spring Yard on anything, and they showed that. But this has been Sonic the Hedgehog. This is the the first game, the iconic Sega Genesis game. You know, even today when people think of Sega, it's kind of tied into Sonic. And I play a lot of 3D Sonic. Well, I would say I played more 3D Sonic than I played 2D Sonic. And everyone always says that the classics, Sonic 1, 2, 3, and Knuckles, are the best games in the franchise. And so I just wanted to experience them for myself, considering that, you know, when I was growing up and these things were out there, I did not have a video game device of any kind. So this has been neat. Sonic 2, will be next. And there's the Eggman taunting you with the remaining Chaos Emeralds. And we'll see what happens.